Hey, welcome to our second Sacred Story Collective book club. We're going to be battling a little bit of nap time clock, so I think we're going to roll into it very quick.
Okay.
You ready, baby?
Great.
All right, this book this week is called 10 Ways to Destroy the Imagination of Your Child by Anthony Esolen. You may be wondering.
Why would I want to destroy my child's imagination? That seems so strange.
Fair question. What say you, my lady?
I would say...
You out here trying to destroy imaginations?
No, I would say it's a magical word called satire.
It's a word that I recently learned, recently added to my vocabulary.
I think you knew that word. You just called it sarcastic, and I was like, no.
Similar. Is it similar?
Yeah. I mean, you saying it's sarcastic isn't incorrect. No, it's incorrect, but it is related to satire.
That's why I call you my thesaurus.
Yeah.
See? It all comes back around. Okay, so the one in the introduction that I marked, I'm going to come back to if we have time. So chapter 1 is titled, Why Truth is the Enemy and the Benefits of the Vague.
Before you start, could you explain, what made you want to read this book in the first place, and
Sure.
if what you would rate it, and then, just to start out?
That's a fair point. So I thoroughly enjoyed the book, definitely. I cruised through it. So I was looking forward to reading it each day, and I finished it at least a month ago. But when I couldn't sleep in the middle of the night last night, conveniently I marked all my star pages with sticky notes so I could quickly get to them.
Perfect.
About one section from each chapter. But I wanted to read it because we are raising a little child who we want to have an imagination, clearly, and nothing was particularly surprising, but I really enjoyed the amount of literature and the creativity. He was a really enjoyable author to read in general. And it's still helpful reminders. It's not things you'd be surprised by, like let your kids have time alone
be
and
bored.
Outside. And be bored, get the screens out of their faces. But it's definitely delivered in a very creative manner and with a lot of background connected to it. And I learned plenty of little interesting things, and also got recommendations from this book for other books to look at.
I love that.
And one of the coolest things that stood out to me that's distinct, very specific, was he mentioned a book that I will definitely look into when, Lord willing, we could have a son. And it could be, I'm sure it could be enjoyed by boys or girls, but the title said 4 boys in it. And it was like 1,001 home engineering projects or something like that, but it was an old book. And so I bet that's fascinating. I could do it myself.
Yeah.
Add it to the garage. So, highly recommend it, and
John
very much
is
enjoyed
so
reading it.
excited. We have our cat on our table, and he just is so happy to be near us.
Yes, and he's saying, I have an imagination, guys. I imagine I'm going to eat your faces off every day.
In love.
Yeah, that's why I stick my nose in your mouth.
Yeah, he's very lovey.
Okay, now I just ended up in chapter 2, I think. So, okay, again, now going into it.
Yeah.
Based on previous sleep patterns of the baby girl and our current timeline, we probably have 2 minutes to spend on each of my chapters. Oh, no. That was when I was. It's 10 reasons. I was thinking 20 for some reason.
Oh.
So,
We're fine.
3 to 4 minutes, we should be okay. But let's see what we can do. So again, first chapter, Why Truth is Your Enemy and the Benefits of the Vague. And where's my sticky?
Sticky.
I thought I had one in each chapter, but there it was. It was folded in. All right, our first quote from the book says this. Oh, gosh, yes, I remember this. This is good. But I have to start on the page before, actually.
Okay.
All right. Hopefully I can give enough context for this to make sense. But anyway, it says, quote, "The second advantage is more powerful than the first. Imagine a serpent whispering into the ear, 'Young lady,' or 'young lad,' as the case may be. Do not fear those rigid threats of death. Bad grammar will not kill you. How should it? It itself is weak and foolish. All structure is foolish. Be creative. Do what you please. So what if some old-fashioned tyrant up above calls it gibberish? It will be your gibberish. There are no rules. Isn't this apple shiny, though? And so what we kill is not only the possibility the students will learn English grammar, but that they will learn the grammar of anything at all. Law, moral philosophy, mathematics, history, you name it." So let me see if I can give enough context to this behind. He's basically explaining it as, if you take, well, here's the quote that he attached to it previously. The best thing to do to strangle the next Tolkien in his educational crib would be to pretend to teach grammar like so. Now, class, says the teacher, we are going to do a little grammar. Frankly, the whole subject is pointless. It's all a set of prickly little rules that apply here and there at random. Try to remember the picky rules, but if you don't, nobody's going to care much because nobody knows them anyway. To be candid, the only... Oh, I can stop there. Change the subject. But,
okay.
So one of the things about this book is that he very quickly, well, he includes a lot of different thought patterns and connections to other literature and such. He rapidly at times jumps from one thing to the next. That's why I think going forward, some of them will be easier to get just from where they're at themselves. But here, to try and simply explain it, what I am remembering and taking from this was it's the bringing as much relativism into it as possible, so you're not actually learning and becoming capable of any specific subject, like he listed off at the end there with the law, moral philosophy, mathematics, history. So then it just gets into the realm of your truth, which how could we have a label more foolish than my truth?
So oxymoronic. So is it like there is objective good grammar and writing, and so in order to have the freedom to be creative and to be good and excel in creative writing, for example, you need to know what good grammar is, because we are designed within like limits, like in God's design, and good grammar and rules of that manner are a reflection of that.
Yeah, that's helpful explanation. So it expands out to everything, but I really liked the way that he structured the explanation here, in that he put it in the words of the serpent in the garden, and saying it will be your gibberish. Like, you are God. Did God really say you do whatever you want to do? So if that's instilled in a child early on, we love watching Charlie Kirk debate college students, and you end up with
that's Josh's, like, every time I walk into the office, he's always playing that while he's editing. I'm like, every single time, some different liberal college kid just mouthing off with no idea what he's talking about.
I just had a friend recently point me to them in general. I'd seen them before, like I know who Charlie Kirk is, but I never, and now I'm just hooked on, I'm soon going to have watched every debate he's had with someone that's available probably. But and there's plenty of that are interesting questions, but you just so regularly get someone who is clearly so unwilling to listen, so they're just there to make demands and then deflect any possible argument to the opposition. So you end up with whatever you already believed has to be the truth because you created it so, because you are a God, basically.
Yeah, that's hugely important with abortion and things. Those arguments are absolutely wild. I don't care what truth. I don't care that human life begins when the DNA is created. That doesn't mean anything to me because that's not my truth. We see that over and over again on those videos, which is wild. But yeah, going back to like an objective good when it comes to like art, for example, because I think creative writing is a type of art. As a photographer, it's so interesting and so cool to know the rules of composition and the rules of lighting and the rules that come with the art of photography, or like videography for you. And then when you know them and study them, you know which rules that you can break. As you know, let's say you've got a photo that's got really incredible leading lines and really good contrast, but the subject in the image isn't looking in the part of the photo that has more negative space than the other side of the photo. So like those are just some different rules. So you weigh the pros and cons, and like, oh, it's following these rules so well, which makes the image good. So even though it's lacking in this one area, it can all blend together to still create a beautiful photo. But knowing those rules is what makes you a good photographer, when you can understand them and know, okay, it's not going to be perfect all the time, and I can't follow the rules all the time, especially when you're a wedding photographer and everything's going so fast on a wedding day, and there's a lot of candidates and stuff, so you're not always archetyping the perfect photo, but you just know and can understand them and work with them. But if we just tell children, that is, this sounds really mean, but like if they are a little bit older and they're getting into painting or drawing, and everything that they draw is perfect and can make no improvements, and they can learn nothing because everything they do is good
That's
because
so
it's their
good.
own rules,
Yeah.
then they're never gonna learn to be better.
Yep. We got a lot more imagination to mash, so I'm going to the next chapter.
I probably won't have much more to add. I think that's all I know about these things.
Done? So the second chapter is keep your children indoors as much as possible. Johnny's taking down the tree?
Yeah, I might
Be
get
all
the
right.
spray bottle.
Okay.
You keep going.
You got to hear this, though. I think I read this one to you before, and I love it. So this chapter 2, quote, one way to neutralize this fascination with the natural world is to cordon it off in parks and zoos, and then to act as if only the parks and zoos were worth seeing. Persuade a child that a giraffe he sees once every couple of years is really impressive, but the wren on the fence post is only a drab little bird. Though he warbles out in the morning a love song, cocking his stubby tail, and is in general one of the bravest and most cheerful of birds. Persuade the child that the Grand Canyon is worth seeing, or Yellowstone National Park, or Mount Rushmore, or the breakers of the ocean on the Florida coast, but ignore the variations of hill and valley, river and pond, bare rock and rich bottom soil in your own neighborhood. Children should be encouraged to think they have, quote, done rivers, or bird sanctuaries, or botanical gardens, in the way that weary tourists are proud to have done Belgium, end quote.
Yeah, that's so good. I remember you reading that to me, and I loved it, and I love it still. But what else could you add to that? It's just so well said.
The creation speaks to the majesty of the Creator, and it's a great reminder for us to look out and be in awe. I'm recently I use ants as a reminder to myself to do that when it's frustrating that they show up somewhere taking all our little crumbs. But they are incredible little creatures. Like,
Yeah.
oh, and I just read the other day in Proverbs. I think this is Proverbs, but it could be Psalms or Proverbs. Look to the ant, you sluggard. I think that's in early, like Proverbs 5 or something. That they prepare. It's incredible. There's so much to be admired in all of creation.
That's so cool. It reminds me of, because I grew up in Arizona, and then I went to GCU for college, and most people that go to GCU, even though it's in Arizona, the people there aren't from Arizona, and so you go and you're surrounded by people who are in Arizona for the first time, definitely living there for the first time, and they love the desert and think it's the most beautiful place, and it really made me appreciate it more. And I had just become an adult going to college, so I had more freedom to go and explore myself, but it definitely made me love the state that I'm from even more. And then this guy is so crazy. And then the first time he brought me to Oregon, and just driving down the street up to your parents' house, and I'm like, this is the most beautiful thing I've ever seen, and the trees just towering over the roads, and you were like, I've never even noticed. Do you remember that?
Mm-hmm. Yes, leaving somewhere that you've become dulled to the beauty of and then returning to it is amazing.
Yeah.
When you get to recognize it from a different perspective, just for having admired something else of God's creation.
Yeah.
Yes.
Definitely.
Love that. So this is on to chapter 3, which is never leave children to themselves. And
Which is, again, this is satirical, don't forget.
Yeah.
Do the opposite of what they say.
So here he gets very creative, and he calls humans tormentarians, because he says he's calling the planet Tormentaria. This is, quote, based according to the bureaucratic shackles we place upon our children. Ouch. So that's going to be in the quote, tormentarians are humans. And then he calls the asylo, ASYLO, meaning rainbow center, where they are attended to by paid professionals, usually of a kindly disposition, who will feed them at regular feeding times, nap them at regular napping times, give them regularly scheduled activities to keep them from rusting solid, and remember their names. And then the section that I specifically marked out, quote, in the asilo, the children must be tormentarianized into predetermined games, never of a competitive nature, lest anyone should be hurt by real anger or disappointment, or elated by real victory. They also practice their alphabet, and the brightest among them learn to read drivel. That satisfies the vanity of their parents, who hope to send them to the finest penitentiaries on the planet. It also prepares them for their adult lives, when they will be reading newspapers and magazines. It has the added advantage of inducing what is called burnout. This is a fascinating phenomenon that warrants a closer look. He goes on to expand upon that, as you would guess.
That was so good.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So the children, really a fitting title to be calling them tormentarians at that point. And then this explanation of the school setup, that was really rough for me in dealing with kids who are used to this as a PE teacher, which I was from 2020 to 23, something like that. The kids who are used to this, when the parents are involved in everything, because again, the title of this chapter, don't leave them to themselves, when the parents are always there to fix whatever situation's going on, and then, so the kids are used to it being, like my emotions are going to be, I don't know, absorbed by my mom. If someone is hurting my feelings, I know I don't deal with them myself. I go to her.
That's so real. My elementary school, I loved my elementary school. We went to a charter school, so it was much smaller and was a really good experience overall. But in middle school, I went to public school. That was not a good experience. But one of the reasons why is because you go to public school, and maybe it was just the transition in middle school either way, I don't know, but there was just a lot of bullies. And my mom wasn't there. At the charter school, one of the, I believe, I might have this wrong, but I believe one of the requirements to go to the charter school, because the charter school is like a private school, but there's no tuition, at least not the charter school that I went to. But there was an expectation of parent volunteers, and that if your child went to that school, that you would basically work for the school for a committed number of hours. And so my mom was there all the time. Other moms were there all the time. And so if there was a problem or someone was mean, you like ran to your mommy or the teacher aides or whatever, and there was just no learning of confrontation skills. And then I went to middle school, and simultaneously we got cable for the first time. I was watching iCarly and learning social skills from Sam Puckett, smacking people upside the head. It was not good.
Now our baby does the same.
That's so embarrassing for myself, thinking of 7th grade. I want to cry, curl up into a ball. Which coincidentally is how I felt every day of 7th grade. Yeah, because I had no social skills, because mom fixed everything. And that's just how it was set up. And yeah, there just probably wasn't enough letting kids figure it out for themselves.
Yes.
So now we let our 1.5-year-old just
run rampant.
Yep.
Pull the cat's tail off, smack other kids in the head, waterboard them.
Oh my gosh, we had friends over last night with their son that's a couple months younger than Lucy Ray. And she's like treating him like he's one of her baby dolls. She like grabs a diaper, wants to change his diaper, was like giving him water out of this plastic cup, and he was like, I think he liked it though.
She took good care of him.
Yeah, it was
I've got
funny.
one more quote from this chapter that relates to the last thing. So, quote says, oh man, where do I start? Quote, when adults are in charge, they will settle the dispute. Sometimes they do so preventively, by making sure that disputes cannot occur. That's what schools in Massachusetts did a few years ago, decreeing that for elementary school soccer matches, no one should keep score.
That's so
What a
crazy.
remarkable teaching device that was. It prevented the children from using their wits to separate right from wrong. It shut off the opportunity for real appreciation of an opponent's case. It delivered the message instead that one's own feelings are paramount. And anyway, what difference does a score make so long as everyone's having fun? Buried beneath the beneficence was the knowledge that the best of fun depends upon the pretense that a run or a goal actually means something. Otherwise, there's no real game at all. But even if score is kept, when the dispute arises, an adult steps in, splits the difference, which is usually an unjust split, and orders the kids to proceed in their maturation. End quote. I really liked the last sentence, orders the kids to proceed in their maturation, because I'm imagining someone just saying, grow up, we're redoing it, or whatever. Like there's a clear display of unjustness for the sake of someone's emotions, probably, or the parent, or like the adult not wanting a child to be upset with them,
right? And
then say, just grow up and do it again and move on, that kind of thing.
It's just so backwards and weird and doesn't even make sense.
Not moving to Massachusetts.
Sure.
Okay, let's go to chapter 4 or 5. I'm not sure, but it's keep children away from machines and machinists. So I think this really well builds off of that first section of not understanding anything fully. Because if you think basically that however you think about something is the reality of it, you will never understand anything to any significant degree. So here it's keep them away from machines and machinists, because if they understand the complexity and the incredible ability of humans to create, and then what they are able to create, to admire that. If you see that, I think you work your way back down the line to intelligence only comes from a intelligent source. So you admire the creator at the end of this line of thinking. But this quote here may not directly bounce off of what I was saying, but here's what I marked from this chapter. Quote, mechanics and play in general don't fit in so easily. It's hard to be thinking about politics when you are trying to invent a catapult out of a couple of rocks, a young tree, a reel for a garden hose, and a spatula. I'll pause here for a second because this section, I'm realizing that I marked, is about how you're supposed to... Oh, actually, I think he's about to explain what I'm trying to explain. I'm just going to continue. Okay, so you're building a catapult. Sounds like a lot of fun. Quote, so mechanics are out, physics and electronics too, but biology, or rather ecology, is in. That is because the subject allows for a great deal of political preaching. At all costs, we must encourage our children not to be fascinated by the actual habits of whales, or by the design that makes it possible for them to be underwater mammals. We must encourage them to believe that whales must be saved. That was each word capitalized. It's like a newspaper headline.
Nice.
Quote continues, it hardly matters here what the correct position is. That is not the point. We might as easily turn science courses and museums into political programs affirming that whales must be destroyed, whales are a threat to our humanity, Captain Ahab was right, and so on. The point is to keep wonder far away and never let children play with the elements of the world. End quote. So now we're just dulling the attempt to be fascinated in an admiration of anything. I think that's a major point that gets expanded on throughout this book. Definitely one of the things I marked expresses that really well. And then that was fascinating, specifically in turning something into a political statement, because then you get to, how much more is that powerful in the hands of evil spiritual forces compared to the admiration for the creation, to just twist it into, we're going to use this as a means of controlling other people, basically.
Yeah, and children, which is so crazy. Mm-hmm. Like, why do we want to politicize children? Like, why do we want to take away their wonder and put them on protest lines?
Oh, it was really disheartening. Another thing about working at the school, as soon as 4th, 5th grade, but definitely middle schoolers, they were clearly echoing opinions, at least to whatever minor degree they can handle, but they were hearing their parents say things politically and then just mimicking them, like a parrot, to each other, but as if they held actual weight or they had any understanding of what they were saying. And it's very sad. It's like you're supposed to just be children and be in awe and wonder of the life and the joy that you get to have. And we're weighing them down with that.
And like, if you let kids, like, okay, let's talk marine biology. You let kids just wonder and be amazed by whales, and then that makes them want to read books about whales and study them and how they work, like that said. And then, they learn that there's been species of whales that have gone extinct, and then they learn about why, and then like maybe they become passionate about saving the whales. Okay, that's great, but it's because they learned and studied and wondered and became passionate about something, not because they were taught to preach something that they don't understand without the knowledge or care for, like, they don't actually care about whales, but they're told that they are supposed to demand.
I love what you're saying. You're definitely speaking the author's language. So it's finding something that you truly want to understand and admire, and then pursue that, but instead it stops at the political slogan. And that's all the weight anything's supposed to hold. We are to use these as a means of power and gain of such. I think we can go to my quote that I marked in the introduction, because I think you'll like it and it bounces off what you're saying.
Okay.
So this is clear back to the beginning. Quote, some years ago, American feminists, in their own right no inconsiderable Amazons against both childhood and the imagination, invented something called Take Your Daughter to Work Day. See, Jill, this is the office where Mommy works. Here's where I sit for 9 hours and talk to people I don't love about things that don't genuinely interest me so that I can make enough money to put you in daycare. End quote. Is that what we are in the interest of preparing children for?
Yeah, it's brutal. Drop the mic.
I'm done there.
Yeah.
There's another quote from this chapter we were in, though.
Okay.
And you'll love this one. So
I loved the last one.
It's I'm going to start at the top. This is awesome. Quote, my grandmother, I remember, insisted that the only thing for cooking tomato sauce in was a big cast iron pot. Something of the salty smell and taste of the iron would give the sauce a special bite. I'm going to skip forward a little bit. It
That's
says,
how I make my sauce.
truly, and I love it. You got the grandma vibes.
That's true.
So the continuing quote, late in her life, when she was losing her memory, my sister asked her for her recipe for chicken soup. Since she never wrote anything down, but did everything by long experience, first you wring the chicken's neck, she said. You're supposed to laugh at that.
Okay.
I thought it was funny. I'll continue, though.
Okay.
Quote, it is true that craft shows abound on the less traveled television channels, but it should not be too difficult to keep Jane away from them. Teach her, the schools will certainly assist you in this, that all the many things her grandmothers did were nothing but mind-numbing drudgery. Never let on that it might be fun to figure out what to do with 40 gallons of cranberries. Canning is drudgery. Never suggest that it might be a real delight to make for yourself or a friend a scarf or a sweater, or that even setting up a loom, let alone working it, requires a mechanical expertise that would impress an Edison or a Graham Bell. Weaving is drudgery. Never breathe a word of that what Tolkien had to say about gardening, that his ideal hobby would be to farm exactly 3 feet square of land and do it perfectly. All that is silly. End quote.
Wow, that's so good. I feel very passionate about that and teaching our daughter that, like, I love making things from homemade, or making things homemade or from scratch. Those are 2 different statements. And I love seeing a craft on Pinterest that is from Etsy, and I think, oh, I can make that myself. And then I do, and it means so much more, and it's more valuable. Okay, Halloween costumes, side note. Not a side note, this is perfectly related. But I do not like to buy Halloween costumes. I don't really care about Halloween. I love costumes, but we love dressing up. It's so fun. There needs to be more holidays and parties and things for dressing up for. And so we love wearing costumes and stuff, but I never ever want to buy just like from Spirit Halloween, just the already set up, perfectly made polyester costumes. I want to make all of them from scratch. So like this last year, we were a family picnic, and I sewed with felt all of the little food items and pinned them to my plaid dress so I could be the picnic, and made Lucy Ray a little ant, and it was just awesome.
Yes.
And I just love the joy that I find in that, and I'm excited to share that with our daughter as she grows older, whether that's like making, like sewing clothes or making crafts or making homemade bread, or just figuring out, we really love this at a restaurant, but we could make this ourselves at home, and figuring all that out together, I think is fun for myself, but I'm excited to teach her that too.
Yes. What Taylor is saying is so valuable for families in general, and on top of that, we are just addicted to purchasing things.
Yeah.
The materialism is so thick. And also, that attaches to part of the reason why people think they can't have children. We're in fear of the affordability. And like we've said and say again, the children don't cost that much. And they are well worthwhile, so stop living in fear of that. They cost as much as you have to give them.
Yeah.
And they will give you much more.
I just watched a video. I started following this girl on Instagram, like right before we started recording this podcast, that I'm immediately obsessed with her account. She lives in a small rental home with her and her husband and 6 kids, and they have all of their kids living in a large attic they converted into a bedroom. And it is the cutest, sweetest room ever. It's so awesome, and I just love that. Like, they're renting a house, and they have 6 kids, and they put them in one room, and they're not living in squalor. Like, it's beautiful, and she clearly loves and cares for her home and her children. Anyways, side tangent.
It's awesome. I don't have any stats to back this up, but I heard someone say just yesterday that if you, in this order, graduate from high school, get a job, get married, have children, you have less than a 2% chance of ending up in poverty at any point in your life in the United States.
That makes sense.
Yeah. I'm going to read another
Okay.
thing from this chapter. This heading is, make sure arts and crafts are just for decoration. You're
And not
loving all this, huh?
practicality. Yeah, I
Okay.
am. That reminds me of An Even Exile, which talks about the quilts and how for us quilts are just like these pretty things that we lay on blankets, but for our grandmothers and great grandmothers, quilts were what they pieced together scrap and spare fabric to keep their family warm in the wintertime. And quilts were essential and meant to be used and worn out because they were necessary. And we find a really pretty quilts that we pay hundreds of dollars for because we don't know how to make them ourselves, and then hang them on our wall or keep them in a closet for display rather than using them, and we don't understand the value like they were intended for.
Well, I got lots of thoughts. I gotta continue.
Okay.
Quote, here you need to be careful. Decoration is, after all, an appeal to the beautiful and the orderly. You do not want your children to learn to paint intricate flower designs in oil on enamel. You do not want them to learn to knit a winter cap. They might end up asking for an easel and a palette for Christmas, or heaven forbid, a loom. But if you do engage in the arts, make sure they are puny and merely pretty, and by all means, keep things as petty as possible. End quote. Take it back to the reason anybody can say that's my truth and that's your truth is because we are way too comfortable. Makes me excited to read the Screw Tape Letters again. The reminders of how we don't battle against flesh and blood, against the rulers, against the authorities, against the spiritual forces of darkness in the heavenly places.
Yeah, we certainly need to have an episode on how moral relativism seeps into Christianity. I know we've mentioned it multiple times in a couple of podcasts like this one, but it's crazy how much you don't realize it. But yeah, I do love that section you just read, because it's not that things can't or shouldn't be beautiful. In fact, they should be. God designs beautiful things, and we're created in his image, and so it's a part of our design to make things beautiful, especially as women, I think. And so it's great to make things beautiful, and we should love and appreciate art. But when we get caught up in like just the beauty of things, or like the aesthetic of things rather than the beauty of things, that can go deeper than just how it looks, but what it's for and how it serves and cares and provides for others, like a quilt. I think it's a great example.
Amen. So I'm trying to figure out where to start this next section. We're on to the next chapter, which is replace the fairy tale with political cliches and fads.
Bro.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this section starts with the G.K. Chesterton quote. I'm sure many people have heard, but
Read it.
It's the trouble with people who do not believe in God is not that they believe in nothing. It is that they will believe in anything. So this section, like I said, I got to figure out where to start reading this. I'll try it here. Quote, if you can think of a political cliche that is not in this work, you should send word to the author that he might supply it in a revised edition. Wait, I feel like I just started a confusing spot. Let's see.
Oh, I don't know, but I like that statement.
Yeah.
It's like, prove me wrong.
I think that's fine. I think I read it. I understand what he was saying. He's referencing some other magazine or something here. But anyway,
Okay.
I'm going to try this. Quote, who is Ed Meese? The student asks, rolling his eyes. Why, he was the Attorney General for the Reagan administration. What was the Reagan administration? That was a time of great evil in America. And who is this Roy Cohn? He was the evil lawyer who prosecuted people during the McCarthy era. But he was also a homosexual who died of AIDS. Ronald Reagan didn't care if people died of AIDS because... ... And you see how it goes. All the fascinating corrugations of history neatly smoothed flat so that students will be prepared to give the planned response to all questions. They will, to boot, be fooled into thinking that they are thinking, just because they will have adopted the correct position on matters they know absolutely nothing about. So the names could easily be swapped out with more well-known or recent names.
Sure.
Clearly. But hopefully the point is clear on what's being said there. Each person or time or whatever just gets assigned to whatever. This is building off the last political statement. Just gets assigned a specific political category for whatever point need be made. And then you get things like it's a clump of cells and it's my body and I can ignore any other factors that you can try and explain to me.
Or take scripture completely out of context and say, love thy neighbor, and that means anything you want it to mean. Because you define love without knowing who love is. Yeah.
Love thy neighbor into letting them hurt themselves and others. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I just watched a video. It might have been, no, it wasn't Charlie Kirk, but it was a similar like street interview situation. And this man was talking to the interviewer, who was a Christian conservative person, who was saying, what's the greatest commandment? And this guy who's a Christian said, love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength, and love your neighbor as yourself. And the guy said, yes, as yourself. And you need to love yourself. And how are you going to love yourself if you don't accept who you are? And I was talking about like the LGBTQ and stuff. And he just was like, the guy was like, what are you talking about? The greatest commandment isn't to love yourself, but that's what the guy thought, because he had like a sound
That's wicked. Yeah, the first and greatest commandment is this: love the Lord your God. And the second, don't forget that they're connected, but it's the first and the second.
Right.
You have to love God thoroughly, which includes the fear of the Lord, so as to keep his commandments. Luke 10:46, I believe, is Jesus saying, why do you call me Lord, Lord, and do not do what I tell you? So we are to follow Christ's commands, keep the Lord's commandments, and then out of that go and love our neighbors. Yeah, that's sick.
Yeah.
Ugh.
So anyways, we just get these sound bites, but that section reminds me, because you said he said something about the children think that they're thinking, something like that, which was so great, because I remember being in college and having a professor who was like really anti-Trump, and this was in 2016, so during his first time running and when he won, and he was really anti-Trump and was really pushing that, and I don't know, it doesn't matter, but I just really didn't like, and I told him, I was like, I don't think that it's your job to tell us what to think, but how to think, and like he was like a sociology professor, so sometimes it was relevant what he was bringing up, and I said, I think you're supposed to teach us how to think, not what to think. But this goes even a step further to where it's like, you just feed your children these sound bites of what to say, and they think that they're thinking, so you're not even teaching them what to think. You're not teaching them how to think, which is what we should be doing. You're not even teaching them what to think, which is less than the latter. You're just teaching them what to say, not what to think.
The question and answer, devoid of the thought process in between. Yeah. Something incredibly valuable, and that I try and regularly remind myself of, is that I know there is much more that I do not know than that which I do know, and that will always be true.
Yeah.
So as I struggle to articulate things and seek to better understand things, to express them more effectively, in pursuit of that knowledge, I get to actually learn. But if I think I'm thinking by regurgitating statements, then exactly, you have succeeded if you are attempting to just control people's thoughts.
Right. Well, what you just said requires humility, and that's why you were such a good learner, is because you are one of the most humble people I've ever known. And you can't agree with that, or you wouldn't be humble anymore.
I don't agree.
But you have so much humility, which equips you to learn so much. And so obviously the opposite of humility is pride. And so this is such pride, to just think that you know everything without thinking at all, and then teaching your children to do the same.
On to the next chapter. This one is cast aspersions upon the heroic and patriotic. I'm going to read two. I might split them up slightly. I think they're quite different, but here it goes. Quote, we see here the products of easy cynicism. Learn to despise the place where you were born, its old customs, its glories, and its shame. Then stick your head in a comic book. That done, you will be triple armored against the threat of a real thought or the call of the transcendent. Some people have no worlds for God to pierce through. End quote. So, major thing I see here is the distraction. Just remove yourself. The emptiness. This is why Taylor Ray's been recently getting hooked on reading, which is amazing. And the fullness, the completeness of thoughts that get contained in actual books, in contrast to scrolling another TikTok video that are typically either completely false or empty because it's such a drop compared to the necessity of thought that's needed for a certain subject that's going to take place in 10 seconds to a minute, whatever it may be. It just destroys our capacity for thought.
Yeah. And a lot of thankfully, the way that my algorithm is curated is I've got a lot of really cool, interesting Christian and conservative content and content about mothering. And so I've learned a lot from Instagram. I've learned so many things about just like toddler behavior and baby development and stuff like that as a mom from Instagram. It's such a cool tool and a great thing, but it doesn't compare from a 90-second at most reel to diving deep into a book and continuing to learn. Because sometimes, because I'm so acclimated to that short form content, sometimes I'm reading a book and I get halfway through and I'm like, I can't possibly learn anything else. I've already learned so much in these first 5 chapters. And there's like 7 to 10 more chapters to go. And I want to stop reading because I'm like, well, like how much more can I learn from one person? Because my brain just isn't used to that. And so, but I keep going and I continue to learn. And I'm like, wow, I'm so glad I kept going.
I think the most important part, it's good to you appreciate what can be gleaned. Like there's plenty to learn, go down the right avenues on social media. And there's also plenty to be distracted by.
Yeah.
And there's plenty to be, ruined morally by.
Yeah.
So obviously there has to be care there. But the biggest difference is that, let's see if I can find the thought that I had. Oh, I think the biggest difference is in the ability you gain to explain it afterwards. Because if you actually pursue the depth of a subject.
Absolutely.
And there's more for you to repeat, like quotes for you to write down, hold on to, tell somebody else about, as opposed to...
I saw this reel, this is exactly what it said, and you repeated it, and then that's all that you have to share in the conversation, rather than I read a 200-page book, and I can tell you about different parts of it and the thoughts that were connected and what I learned from it and how I've applied it in my life, and it's a lot
Speaking
more.
of which, after I read this next section, which is from the same chapter, I'm going to explain something I listened to on a podcast yesterday, which will kind of fit that category because I only have such little understanding of it, but it's interesting. Okay, so remember this chapter is Cast Aspersions Upon the Heroic and the Patriotic. Quote, "But we want no patriots. Therefore we want no lovers of their own place. The very purpose of what is miscalled multiculturalism is to destroy culture, by teaching students to dismiss their own and to patronize the rest. Hence, the antidote to love of this place is not only a hatred of this place, but a phony engagement with any other place. Multiculturalism, in this sense, is like going whoring. Pretending to love every woman you meet, you love none at all. Nor do you genuinely get to know any of them, since it never occurs to you that there are any depths to learn to appreciate. Is there nothing to claim your devotion in North Georgia? What should there be to do in South Wales? We will raise, at best, the mildly interested tourist who collapses everything he sees into the 2 dimensions of a social fad. They will rack up places they've seen just as callous safari hunters rack up skins and horns, only without the danger that might awaken the heart. Or they will stay home, since one place will be just as dull as the next." End quote.
Yeah, wow, that's so good.
So again, it's just the doling of admiration. This is how you get old, bitter humans who decide, I've had enough of this meaningless suffering, and now I live in Canada and they allow us to legally commit, or like have a legally set up doctor put me to death when there's no good reason for it. I'm just empty of hope. That's what a tragedy. It's indescribable and horrible to consider.
Yeah, it's so sad, especially with the euthanasia thing to begin with, because at first it was meant, I believe that it was originally intended not by Satan. He intended this to be evil, but I believe that the people really believed that this was humane. People who are in deep physical suffering and have these terminal diagnoses, and they're just suffering till the day that they die. I believe that that was like well intentioned, but how obviously this was going to happen, but how quickly it did, that it just descended into a perfectly physically healthy middle-aged woman who is depressed and doesn't want to live anymore, and now is able to have doctor-assisted suicide.
Yeah, well, even if the starting point is like the good heart problem, where humanity somehow it's like simultaneously we try and hold that yourself is the most important thing in this
Right.
world, but also everything is meaningless, including you.
Right, and it's devoid of a Christian thought that we know and believe that suffering is for the sake of the gospel, is for this, and we are meant to pick up our cross. So it's completely devoid of Christian thought.
So back to Satan that you mentioned.
Sure.
This brought to mind that yesterday, my favorite podcast over the past 6 months or so has been the Steve Deace Show. And yesterday, while the week that we're recording this, there's an Egyptian Muslim man who went to a demonstration in Colorado with homemade flamethrower of some sort and Molotov cocktails, and injured. I think now it's been released that somebody's injuries resulted in them dying, but injured at least 8 people with fire and whatever. I don't know to what degree what went down exactly, but they were discussing this taking place on the show, and I hope I can do this some justice. But Steve Deace was talking about how people will say there's a screenshot of the video of this guy where he's in the foreground, so like this Muslim man coming, and he's yelling, "Free Palestine."
Now we come to the front, and let me give you the typical conservative media take. Yeah, they're gonna stone homos in Egypt, and so I mean that's just crazy that an Egyptian nationalist sitting there and he's lighting the Jews on fire instead of the building with the tranny flag. They're the same side, moron, and they always have been. They're from the same source, hell. Hell has denominations too. You're just looking at a couple of them right here. And just like our denominations, there's things we vehemently disagree with each other on, right, Todd?
There are.
To the point we will sometimes fight each other quite prevalently over those definitions and those differences, correct?
Correct.
Hell's got its denominations as well. But make no mistake, when push comes to shove, homeboy here knows what side he's on. So he lights the Jews on fire instead.
The attempt to annihilate God's creation from whatever avenue, direction it's pointed. I thought that was
That's
powerful,
so
poignant.
interesting.
Let's go on to the next chapter. Surprised the baby still sleeps.
Well, the monitor did die, but I can turn it on for a
Oh,
second.
this is great. Next chapter is called Cut All Heroes Down to Size. Quote,
She's sleeping.
quote, encourage the snigger rather than the cheer, the knowing smirk rather than the flush of adoration. Lead them in laughing at what you do not understand. Finally, since the hero stretches our minds and hearts by being so strikingly different from the rest of us, even superior in some ways to the rest of us, teach your children to hate and suspect excellence. This you can do in 2 ways. You can attack excellence itself, a risky enterprise, since if you are going to bring the heroic genius of Michelangelo down to the level of, say, special effects in video games, you actually have to show your children the work of Michelangelo. One never knows what might happen then. The opposite strategy seems surer. You call anything and everything excellent. You democratized heroism. Everybody is a hero, and simply for doing, and often not well at that, the ordinary tasks of living as a half-decent person. Does your mother fix your breakfast? She is a hero. Does your father visit you every weekend without fail? A hero. Does your teacher mark your papers faithfully when you make a mistake? Unexampled heroism, that. If everyone is a hero, then no one is a hero. And genuine heroes will go unnoticed in all the mindless self-congratulation. I know that line. When everyone's super, no one will be.
Yeah. The Incredibles.
True.
First I was thinking Megamind, and I said, that's not right.
Still a classic, though.
Yeah, so true. Wow, that's so good. And it reminds me of something I was going to say from the last quote. I feel like they both somewhat connect to this thought, is just thinking about how our culture praises the underdog no matter what, which is why there's like moral superiority attached to anyone in a minority. And that can mean plethora of things, but like you could be in a minority in a race or in a religion. And like that's why people don't, like, Americans are groomed to not like America, is because we are the world superpower. And when we were starting out, people can like the American Revolution and can like the origins of American history because we were the underdog underdog then, but then now we're not anymore. Now we're the world superpower, and so now we lose moral value because of that. Not we actually do, but that's what we're groomed to believe. And then same with Christianity, because Christianity grows and flourishes all across the world because it's true that it's viewed as being less than by non-believers, and they think like, you think that you're right and all the other world religions are wrong, and nobody else thinks that about their religion. This is not true.
This is what you're explaining is probably the biggest problem with social media, in that we take people who are the most distorted mentally, and then everybody has the same access to a voice, and then you tell somebody that there's something that should be sought to be resolved, that is a problem in their life, is actually just who they are, and therefore should be encouraged. So just the easy congregation of wickedness, I think, is the worst aspect of social media in general. And the fact, I heard this years ago expressed, that there's this love, especially going back to the abortion argument. One of the things people like to say is about, abortion, homosexuality, these kind of things. And again, let's hit, while I'm going into this, let's hit 1 Corinthians 6. None of these will inherit the kingdom of heaven, and such were you, but you were washed, you were sanctified. So we get to be filled with joy and thankfulness, and a desire for others to see the freedom that's found in Christ. So it's not our judgment to give. God does that, cast that judgment in the end, so it is our goal and desire to draw people away from that. But in these subjects, people who are attempting to spread them love to use the animal kingdom as examples for why these things are okay, as if humans and animals are the same.
That's
morally.
Also anti-Christian thought.
And then, but there's this idea I heard someone say, but what animal species takes its weakest and tries to put them in leadership positions? I found that as a great, very thought-provoking and powerful argument in these situations of what we're doing with human beings. And then, like I'm going to say about abortion specifically, is we take the women who end up in these positions have likely already been abused, if not in multiple ways, by multiple men. They've been abandoned, likely come from fatherless homes or poor role models at the very least, and then end up in these positions. And then we say, yes, she knows best, absolutely, and we have to encourage this to be done. And it's just twisted, and it also is illogical.
Right, absolutely. Also, speaking of like the animal kingdom and relation, another reel that I watched yesterday.
Here we go again.
Someone was scrolling too much yesterday, I'll admit it. But I watched this video that was so sad. It was from some animal documentary of a mother lion walking away from her cub that had a broken back, and was like, the cub was walking with its front legs and its back legs were dragging, and he was just like crying out for his mom. It was so sad. And the mother lion has her back to the lion after she's walking away, and he's trying to follow, and she stops, and you could they zoom in on her face, and she looks like it's a lion, but she looks sad. And then all the comments are like, I watched this documentary and there were so many people videoing this. They could have rescued that lion and brought it to be rehabilitated, but that baby lion died because the mother abandoned it, and so did the human beings, and that's so wrong. And I'm like, hello, abortion? Hello, it's so sad for this mother lion to abandon and let her baby die because it's handicapped and going to be inconvenient on her life when she's an animal. Like, that actually does make sense in the animal kingdom. I mean, and still it breaks our hearts. And yet a human being, if another human tries to intervene and say, no, you shouldn't leave behind this animal, or like, let me take care of this animal, like, I'm saying animal, but baby, when we translate it to human people, that becomes evil and wrong, that we would want to intervene and save a child's life inside the womb.
Because of all the inconvenience. Yeah. So let's expand upon that. The next chapter is reduce all talk of love to narcissism and sex. Quote, and what happens when a boy and girl fall in love? Not much, except that eventually they get around to wondering when they will have sexual intercourse. For the whole subject of sex has to do with controlling the hardware and keeping it clean. Natural virtues, the momentous giving of oneself wholly to another, the duty you owe to a child you might conceive, the duty you owe to your parents, the duty you owe to the people among whom you live, not to mention the duty you owe to the law of God. None of these enter into the pasteboard imagination of Miss Jukes. That's an author he's expanding upon there. Yeah, I can stop there anyway. So that is very related to what you were just expressing there. Another way to destroy the minds of children would be to convince them that there is nothing incredible about the creation of life, and the most important thing is for you to just have the physical and momentary enjoyment. That few minutes of pleasure you get holds much more weight than an eternal soul that could be created, developed, and led on to create more eternal souls.
Don't be annoyed, but I have another reel that I saw that reminded me. This is, sorry, becoming way too much of a theme. This was I saw weeks and weeks and weeks ago, but it was this woman that was explaining. There's some accounts I follow that talk. It's like the Birds and the Bees account was really cool, where it equips you to talk to your children about sex and about how babies are made and things like that, which is really cool. But this was some random lady that came up on my feed that said that, I don't know why our parents are so concerned about talking to their kids about sex when they ask where babies come from. I can explain to my child where babies come from without having to talk to them about sex, because not all babies come from having sex. And she explained, IVF and adoption, which as adoptive parents, I understand this to some extent, but she talked in depth about insemination and IVF and explained all these things, and it just made me really sad, because babies are born or meant to be born because of sex, but it is so crazy. There's so many children that do exist without a mother and father becoming one, but there's still sex involved some way or another. It's just that was sad to me, because this God's design is that it would be a husband and a wife being fruitful and multiplying. But we can. She's excited to teach her children where babies come from, devoid of the love of a husband and a wife.
Yeah, and sometimes we get to appreciate, again, the miraculous nature of what God allows people to understand and become capable of. So there's some situations where there is benefit from that. But yes, the like you just said in that last section, the whole devotion of self that's supposed to be entangled with the creation of life is, when we separate that's part of the reason that there is so much hurt and people incapable of being in productive relationships. Yeah.
And my point of saying that was to say that we cannot and should not remove love, how making love makes children. That is the point. It's one of the purposes of making love with your spouse, and how important that is, and you need to teach children that in an appropriate way. That was not me saying, on the other hand, that any child born of IVF or whatever has less value, because that is the furthest thing from the truth. So just to clarify, if that needed any clarification.
Yes. Side note on your real exploration, I am not certain if this is a glitch or not, but my phone said 14 minutes average of screen time last week.
Yeah, you're a legend.
Trying to set records. I was at 37 minutes the week before, so basically it's just a competition at this point. See how low I can take it. Let's see. You're saying everything that takes us to the next chapter each time. It's amazing. So the next chapter is level distinctions between man and woman. Quote, we want sex as a kind of recreational drug, like the soma of Huxley's Brave New World. But we don't want sex as the distinction between male and female. We are still, at least until the technocrats have perfected artificial conception and gestation, going to produce the next generation in the old-fashioned and mysterious way, the mingling of bodies giving rise to, as the scripture quaintly puts it, a new living soul. But we want that to happen as the result of the life-career decisions of the modestly contented couple. We don't want a woman to look at a man with any kind of wonder and reverence and say to herself, he is the one whose child I want to bear. We don't want a man to look at a woman in the same way, saying, she is the one I wish to bear my child.
Okay, literally, how did that happen? How did I connect that? That's crazy. I mean, clearly he connected it, so it wasn't that far off. But wow, that's so cool. I mean, that's so sad, but such a cool observation and important.
We're almost at the end of the book. I'm going to skip the next, what I had in that chapter. Chapter after that is called Distract the Child with the Shallow and Unreal. And I think this is number 9. Let me see. Yes. Okay, so there's 2 to go. Quote. If you are breathing hard from the airborne soot of a city, all it may take for your lungs to clear again is to spend a week in the country. And all it might take for the imagination to breathe again is some time in solitude and silence. Then solitude and silence must be abolished. You can deny the existence of God and of any meaning in the universe. You may take out the democratic steamroller and flatten all heroes in sight, or perhaps more wisely, raise every ordinary selfish fool to the status of hero. You may laugh at manhood and womanhood and deprive boys and girls of ways to express longings natural to their sex. You may douse the flames of love of country and convict your forefathers of wickedness for not doing everything as you do. You may see all the world through the lens of politics. You may schedule a child into submission. You may keep him from witnessing honest and ingenious labor. You may muffle him up indoors. It will be in vain if you allow him moments of silence and solitude.
Wow, that was such a good summary of the whole book.
Yes, so now you've attempted to take away the ability to think, but if you still give opportunities to think, this is like in the Screw Tape Letters when the demon says, the man, his patient. So he's trying to manipulate this man into a life that is wholly separate from God to eventually end up in damnation, right? So he says that he's with his patient, and then his patient has a thought, and before he, the demon, can try to manipulate the thought, he says the enemy, meaning God, is at his elbow. And he says, you know how we can never quite hear what he's saying. So it's, God is there in pursuit. This is like, I've got to say something about Romans 1 in every episode.
Sure.
This is his invisible attributes, namely his eternal power and divine nature, have been clearly perceived ever since the creation of the world and the things that have been made, so they are without excuse. So that God is there. He is evident around us, and he is in pursuit of us.
But if you never look up from your iPad, then yeah.
Yes, distracted into oblivion. And same, 2 Peter 3:9, for God is not slow to fulfill his promise, as some count slowness, but is patient towards you, not wishing that any should perish, but that all should reach repentance. God desires that we should be with him, but he does not force us. There's no real love in being forced into submission. What did I just read? Am I on a different page now? I think I must have flipped forward. What was the last chapter? Distract the child with shallow and unreal?
Yeah, I think so. It was about not letting your kid be bored.
In that case,
Which I just need to say really quick. I told Josh this the other day, that I think that one of the reasons why our daughter can just sit in bed quietly, as she is right now, I'm watching her on the monitor, and she'll be awake for a long time in her bed. And for example, time like this, we're going to wrap it up really soon, but she's totally fine. She's just like holding her stuffed animal in the dark and vibing. And if she had screen time, like how a lot of kids do, I really think that she wouldn't be able to do that, because she would need to be stimulated all the time. And she's so fine to not be stimulated. And just quiet time for kids is a good thing.
Yep, and we don't know for sure how she'd react otherwise, but we're not going to test it.
Right, correct. So maybe you have a kid and you give them 4 hours of screen time a day, and they also can sit in their bed quietly. You might still want to adjust their screen time.
And then we get to go in there. Well, I wonder what... I try and give sound to her thoughts.
Sure.
And I'm hearing like...
Yeah.
I wonder what kind of... Does she think in images?
Wow.
It's fascinating.
These are good questions.
But when we go in there, we'll get, hello.
Yeah. Yeah. Or she has a stuffed elephant that she likes to sleep with, and I'll turn on the light and she goes... Like, she sees her elephant, and the first thing she does is let us know, this is what my elephant is saying. It's so funny. Anyways, keep going.
Okay, this is going to be the last one.
Okay, great.
This whole section's so good. So the last chapter is titled, we've been building to it, Deny the Transcendent. All is meaningless. Give up hope. So, where to begin? Okay, here it goes. Quote, now the odd thing about man is that he cannot help himself, but when he goes outside on a clear night, he must look at the sky. The dog does not do it. If birds do it, it is not because they wonder at the beauty above them. They are only using those lights as roadside reflectors or signposts on their aerial highway. They do not wonder at them. But man, if he has nothing above him to gaze upon in wonder, ceases to be man. He not only can behold the heavens, he must. Regardless of what you may think about the birth of the cosmos presented in the first chapter of Genesis, one thing is certain. It is a brilliant piece of psychological wisdom. The first thing our imaginations seek is the first thing God creates, the primal light. And God beheld that light and saw that it was good. So too all of the wild variety of creatures that dwell in the heavens and on the earth, concluding in man. Yet man is not made primarily for work. Man is, in that account, oriented toward the day of rest, the Sabbath, and the worship of the God who made him. We could put it this way. He is man, and like God, because he too beholds the light and sees that it is good. None of the other beasts do that, and none of the other beasts sum up their work and worship on the day of rest. Man is not only the creature that Man is not only that creature that forges tools, that reasons, and that walks upright. Man is the creature that looks up. Man praises. Amen. Lucy Ray would say it if she was here.
Yeah, she
Amen.
does say, amen. Amen.
Thanks for coming with us on another book club. Look forward to doing some more soon. Even Exile is next, I believe.
Yes, it is. I basically read it 1.5/2 times. And I still need to go through it again and pick out all the parts because I could just sit here and read the whole book, and I'm not going to do it. Because you need to go and read the whole book. But we'll find out when we do that next episode. So look forward to it, and we'll see you guys next time. In the meantime, like and subscribe, and and send us questions is the most important thing to us. We want to make sure that we can answer your questions on the podcast and serve you well. So we hope that you'll do that either on our website or on Spotify. If you can ask a question, something like that there. Yeah. So go ahead and do that, and we'll see you guys next time.
Let's go get the baby. What is it? Jesus loves you. Now go and sin no more.